The Renaissance marks one of the most vibrant and transformative periods in the history of Western thought and culture. Its name, derived from the French word for rebirth, echoes its core essence: a renewed and fervent revival of classical learning, artistic innovation, scientific inquiry, and intellectual expansion that reshaped Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries. But to fully understand the Renaissance, we must delve into the conditions that made this explosion of creativity possible, examine the remarkable individuals who propelled it forward, and recognize its enduring influence on subsequent generations. This was not merely a return to the past, it was a reimagining of what was possible for human civilization. It was the beginning of a shift that still resonates in the way we think, create, and learn. If you're enjoying this journey through the Renaissance, don't forget to like the video, share it with fellow history lovers, and subscribe for more deep dives into the history of ideas. The seeds of transformation. The seeds of the Renaissance can be traced to a gradual decline of medieval structures and an evolution of European society by the late 13th century. The Black Death had shaken Europe's social and economic foundations, weakening feudal systems and creating new opportunities for social mobility. Meanwhile, city-states such as Florence, Venice, and Milan emerged as centers of wealth, trade, and civic pride. Their urban culture fostered competition and patronage, attracting scholars, artists, and thinkers who sought support and stimulation. Economic growth fueled an appetite for innovation, not just in commerce and finance but also in education and the arts. As cities grew, so did the power of merchant families and guilds, who invested in cultural achievements as symbols of prestige and influence. Florence and the Medici. Florence, in particular, stands as the cradle of the Renaissance. Its republican government, though often controlled by powerful families like the Medici, nurtured civic engagement and a sense of communal identity. The Medici family's patronage of the arts and humanist scholarship transformed Florence into a cosmopolitan hub. Their commissions enabled artists like Filippo Brunelleschi to rediscover linear perspective in architecture and engineering, Donatello to sculpt in a revived classical realism, and Michelangelo Buonarroti to channel intense human emotion into the human figure. The Medici were more than bankers, they were visionaries who believed culture could be a tool of power and enlightenment. Their salons and academies became laboratories of expression, where politics, philosophy, and aesthetics met. The rise of humanism. Humanism, the intellectual backbone of the Renaissance, emerged as a celebration of humanity's capacities and potential. Humanist scholars studied classical texts in original Latin and Greek, seeking to liberate them from medieval glosses and to recover the values of ancient civic life, moral philosophy, and literary eloquence. Figures such as Petrarch, often called the father of humanism, traveled across Europe seeking manuscripts, reading classical authors, and writing letters and sonnets with a newfound self-awareness. His reflections praised the dignity of the individual and the promise of secular achievement. Humanists believed that education was not merely preparation for religious life but a preparation for moral citizenship. They emphasized the development of virtue through eloquence and reason, and laid the foundation for modern liberal education. Art as innovation and expression. Parallel to the intellectual movement, though deeply intertwined with it, was artistry's remarkable technical innovation and expressive refinement. Renaissance artists broke free from medieval stylization and Byzantine abstraction, celebrating naturalism, three-dimensional space, anatomical realism, and emotional depth. Brunelleschi's innovative engineering of the Dome of Florence Cathedral demonstrated not only a revival of Roman architectural techniques but a daring leap in problem-solving and structural ingenuity. His inventions around perspective enabled painters such as Masaccio to paint figures that appeared to occupy believable spatial environments. Art became a language of exploration, one that blended science, theology, and aesthetics into powerful visual narratives. In the hands of Renaissance masters, the canvas and the chapel wall became sites of philosophical inquiry and spiritual drama. Masters of the Renaissance. Masaccio's frescoes, painted with dramatic chiaroscuro and lifelike proportions in Florence's Brancacci chapel, marked a breakthrough in pictorial realism. Each stroke seemed to imbue biblical scenes with dramatic lighting and human psychology. Later, Leonardo da Vinci's insatiable curiosity spanned painting, anatomy, mechanics, botany, and engineering. Leonardo's Mona Lisa, with her subtle smile and layered sfumato, illustrates psychological nuance. The Last Supper reconstructs perspective and compositional drama. His anatomical sketches reveal detailed observations of muscle and bone. Leonardo embodies the Renaissance ideal of the virtuoso, perpetually exploring, experimenting, and integrating across disciplines. These were not just artists, they were polymaths whose works helped redefine human capacity and aspiration. Their contributions remain embedded in our understanding of both beauty and intellect. The scientific awakening, scientific inquiry, too, assumed a new, Renaissance shape. Scholars began to question ancient authorities, conducting experiments, measuring with precision, and searching for mathematical harmony. Nicolaus Copernicus challenged the geocentric model in De Revolutione Bus Orbium Coelestium, positing a heliocentric cosmos. Though controversial, this marked a sea change in the understanding of the universe. Tycho Brahe amassed astronomical observations with unprecedented accuracy. Johannes Kepler then refined them into laws of planetary motion. Galileo Galilei adopted telescopic observation to confirm the phases of Venus and sunspot phenomena, directly challenging Aristotelian cosmology. His commitment to experimentation and mathematical description inaugurated a new era of science. The Renaissance was the dawn of modern science, not just for what it discovered, but for how it asked questions and tested answers. These early scientists laid the groundwork for centuries of discovery to follow. The power of the printed word. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg around 1440 accelerated this intellectual revolution. With movable type, books, previously scarce, expensive, and imprecise, became more affordable, standardized, and widely available. As humanist texts, vernacular literature, scientific treatises, and news traveled across Europe, literacy spread, and intellectual exchange intensified. The printing press democratized knowledge. Renaissance ideals reached scholars, printers, merchants, and even lay readers in towns and villages. Information now moved faster than ever before, breaking down barriers of distance, language, and class. The ripple effect of this technology would change politics, religion, and education for centuries. Reformation and Counter-Reformation. This emergent information economy reshaped religion as well. Martin Luther's 1517–95 theses, disseminated widely thanks to print, sparked the Reformation, a fundamental re-evaluation of authority, faith, and scripture. Although the Reformation fractured Western Christianity, it aligned with humanist impulses, returned to original biblical texts, individual conscience, and questioning of established hierarchies. In Catholic Europe, the Counter-Reformation, exemplified by the Council of Trent, also utilized print, new religious orders like the Jesuits, and visual arts to reform and reinvigorate Catholic life. Baroque art, in this sense, fused artistic brilliance with spiritual persuasion. The religious tensions of the era also created powerful artistic and philosophical movements, bringing both unity and division to Europe. Out of this friction came a deeper engagement with morality, power, and the role of institutions. The Northern Renaissance. Italy was not the only Renaissance arena. In Northern Europe, the Flemish master Jan van Eyck refined oil painting techniques to render texture, light, and natural realism in canonical works like the Ghent altarpiece. Albrecht Dürer assimilated Italian proportion, perspective, and classical form into a northern palette of engravings, portraits, and religious works. Humanist scholarship from the north, embodied by Erasmus of Rotterdam, critically edited church fathers, promoted moral philosophy, and transcribed texts in more accessible versions. Shakespeare's vibrant plays echoed Renaissance themes, classical allusions, human complexity, and moral exploration, reflecting a worldview that celebrated human agency and rhetorical power. The Northern Renaissance blended regional traditions with Renaissance ideals, creating a unique cultural synthesis. This convergence of thought and expression laid the foundations for modern European identity. Education and the liberal arts. Education and pedagogy also transformed. Renaissance schools emphasized the studia humanitatis, grammar, rhetoric, poetry, history, moral philosophy, and classical languages. These became the core of modern liberal arts curricula. The arts became professionalized. Painters, sculptors, and architects were increasingly recognized for their inventive creativity rather than mere artisanship. Trade guilds supported artistic development, courts competed in cultural splendor, universities reformed their curricula, and scholarly networks circulated manuscripts and correspondence among Europe's learned. The ideal of the well-rounded individual emerged, someone fluent in letters, art, philosophy, and public life. This educational vision remains a cornerstone of academic systems around the world. Contradictions and consequences. Nevertheless, the Renaissance also harbored tensions and contradictions. Its glorification of human potential sometimes coexisted with sexism, slavery, or colonial abuses. The drive for exploration, fueled by Renaissance curiosity, also facilitated European expansion around the globe, bringing forth both cultural exchange and conquest. The ideals of beauty and proportion shaped canonical art, yet also accommodated representation of power, religious control, and elitist portraiture. The intellectual liberation across sciences and art was often tethered to the authority of church or court, and scientists like Galileo faced institutional resistance. Despite these complexities, the Renaissance laid essential groundwork for discussions on ethics, freedom, and responsibility. Its legacy is as much about inquiry as it is about inspiration. A legacy that lives on. By the late 16th century, Renaissance styles and ideas began to assimilate into the Baroque era, the Scientific Revolution, the Enlightenment, and eventually modernity. But the legacy of the Renaissance remains profound. Its humanist celebration of potential, its marriage of art, nature, and intellect, its insistence on learning from antiquity while also innovating, and its belief that individuals could shape their world through inquiry, imagination, and skill. The Renaissance taught us to look back in order to move forward. It remains a compass for all who believe in human progress, dignity, and creativity. If this journey moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More ideas await.